All right, so what we have is capture, connect, engage, because those are three things that I really think Apple Classroom utilizes and emphasizes in how you use it. I am Carrie Schell from the Office of EdTech and Design. I am an instructional specialist in SAISD, and I taught for 8 years in SAISD before I moved into this position. You can remember my name as C Schell, and that's my email, letter C Schell1 at saisd.net. So today I want to share how the use of Apple Classroom connects you to your T-tests. That is in Instruction Dimension 2.1. So you are supporting all learners in their pursuit of high levels of academic, social, emotional success. Apple Classroom helps you with that tremendously. In the planning dimension, it helps you plan engaging lessons and creates flexibility within your lessons to help your students with their academic achievement. And then looking at the ITSE standards, you as the facilitator are facilitating learning with technology to support student achievement. And then my TA TEKS, those are our technology application TEKS. And let me get back to it. There we go. Trying to minimize y'all out of my spot. Okay. Technology application TEKS. We're looking at digital citizenship. So I added this one in because typically we teach digital citizenship in the libraries and it's one lesson and that's it. But in SAISD, we're really looking at a mindset shift in that. So we are teaching our students daily the importance and acceptable use of their digital resources so they understand the impact it could have on their life right in the future. And I cannot see y'all. I want to put that disclaimer out there right now. I cannot see y'all. So if you have a question, you put something in the chat, I'm going to count on Juan to just go off mute. Let me know. I'm sure he can answer stuff for you as well. Y'all can come off mute as much as you want. Feel free to interrupt me. We're all in this together, right? Okay, so our objectives today, we are looking at Apple Classroom and how it helps facilitate using iPads for creativity and learning. And so we're going to explore what Apple Classroom is, how to set it up, and how to use it to manage your workflow. I'm hoping to show you a quick demonstration also of what it kind of looks like on your end to connect with students. However, I do have a lot of picture support in this as well. So just talking about Apple Classroom, the why behind wanting it, other than the how it connects to our standards. So a big thing is you can view every student's screen, everything they are doing on their iPad, okay? It allows you to launch web pages and apps onto their devices. It lets you airdrop content to them and students can share back to you as well. I'm not sure if you know that airdrop is something that has been is regulated in our district because of inappropriate content being airdropped across devices. And in order to help that, the district has turned it off. So our way around that is in Apple Classroom, you can airdrop to students. They can only airdrop to you. They cannot airdrop to each other or share to other devices. Something that kind of lights up teachers' eyes is in Apple Classroom, you can lock students' devices in their apps, or you can lock their screens so they can't open and access their iPad. Also creating groups of devices. So think about how these features, not just for the power, right, of being able to lock their device, but you can provide immediate assistance during whole group lessons or personally, when I was in the classroom, I had my iPad with me and I could see what my students were doing in their learning stations while I still had my small group with me and I was working with them. Okay, so let's go through setting up Apple Classroom. Yes, you're going to get this presentation. And if you are an SAISD educator, we in our department would gladly help you set up your Apple Classroom the first time next year as well. So you just remember Seashell, reach out, and we will be there for you. Setting up our Apple Classroom. So on your teacher device in SAI, so this one is specific to SAIC. However, if you're out of district, I would also highlight this because your district may have to do the same thing. And the iPads are all set up as student iPads, so there is limitability. I'm not saying the right word. There's a limit on what students can do on their iPads, right? And the access they have. So as a teacher in our district, you are allowed a little more access. And so you'll grab their serial number and share that in a work order to IT in a help desk ticket, and they will switch your iPad over to a teacher device. The Apple Classroom setup looks like this. So when you open the app, you'll either see classes or you have your plus sign here to create a new class. Name your class, choose your icon and your color. A lot of times I like to name it by the year I'm in or the class period, whether you are, elementary or secondary, or perhaps you're elementary and you are not self-contained, and so you would have reading group, 1, reading group 2, and so forth. So after you press done and you set up your name, you're going to invite your students to connect with you to your device. You will have a 4-digit code. This code can be used to connect all devices. However, if you exit out of this part, the code will change, which is fine. You would just repeat the steps. You would do invite and get a new code. On the student's device, you want to make sure you are on the same Wi-Fi as your iPad and the student's iPad. Typically that's automatic, but sometimes it could impact, so you'll want to check that. And then you will follow the steps on the screen. Right here, how it shows in this image, classroom disconnected, that is going to pop up. That does not live there on the iPad. It's only if you have it set to invite students. And this hint right here in step number 2, to lay out all the devices, that is how I like to personally help my teachers set up their Apple Classroom, is if you open them all, lay them all out, and you can go through and click, 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 putting in the information. So here's what the student side looks like. So on my teacher one, I have the invite, I have the code, I know what code I'm putting in. Right here, Apple Classroom will pop up, and I mean pop up, like it's not there and then it will appear. You don't have to click anything other than making sure Bluetooth is on. You will add your classroom name, so you'll see right there. Here in step 2, okay, that was fun. Okay, here in step 2, hopefully you see my cursor, and it's where it says lock apps and devices and then AirPlay and view screen. Those will always show ask, but we want to switch it to always. It is kind of helpful to do this without students so they don't know how to change those settings immediately. Could they figure it out? Yes, we have very tech-savvy students. However, it's nice that they don't know where to go and look, right? Because they can change it back to ask, and you'll know if they do because you won't be able to view their screen. Naming the device, think about a numbering system. So you can have a couple of ways. I've done it where I had my students' numbers in the classroom. That did help for if I had a student leave the classroom and go, transfer to a different school altogether, then that device was not named personally. So when I had a new student arrive, I could say, you are now number 4, and so forth. Or you can name it by name because you can change and edit names of students. You'll see where you put your code in, you'll tap add, and then you'll look back at the teacher iPad and you're going to see all of the students' iPads that you've connected, okay, using your invitation pin. and then you'll click add. This is a good note. If you're in it and you have it open, the same pin can be used for your entire class. So you don't have to click add, okay, then go back and click invite and then get a new pin. You can use the same thing for the entire classroom. And you can always add students later. Now, in Apple Classroom, there are some options, right? And y'all stop me at any point because it's a lot of information. I might actually, no, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. But y'all stop me, okay? If you have a question, if you have if something pops up in the chat, let me know, so I can help and assist as needed. So we have our optional setup is creating groups. Now I like groups because lots of different things. First of all, in learning centers, if you have them grouped by their group and then you know where students are working, you can select the group and push them something that they need, their template they need. But then notice here on the students' pictures, it has the app that they are in, right? So if I know that in my group, like Andrew, Brian, Chris, Chella, like those students are in a group together, right? But look at Andrew's icon is not on the right screen, neither is hers, so that can help me see, give feedback, maybe need to regroup a student, right? They will figure out that you are watching. So here, you're creating your groups, one student on their own, group of students, entire class. You can see here an idea, break them into groups, projects based on project assignment, and then you can guide each group's experience differently. Okay, I'm gonna come over to see y'all. I'm gonna do exit on my full screen. Come over to see y'all. We're doing good, Juan. Okay, yay. No questions yet, right? I know it's a lot of information. Got this. Okay. So popping back into using Apple Classroom. Sorry, excuse me. And this, because this is Apple iPad based, but there's so much information, I did want to include all this picture support. So when you use this again to reference, you will have those images to help you. So using Apple Classroom. Okay, this is the teacher interface and what it looks like. So in this action, we're showing multiple students, right? So you can see on the left side, you have all students. There's actions at the top, and we'll go into these things, and then actions at the right-hand side and the left-hand side, and they do two things. You can see where that invite students, remove students, or end class are in this view. Okay, so in those actions, all right, these are the things that you have the capability of doing. Opening apps, navigating to content, viewing their screens, hide open apps, unlock or lock, mute iPads, and then invite remove students. So this top toolbar right here, these are explaining each of these icons. Okay, this one is not explained. This little folder guy, think of it like an inbox, right? That's when students share content to you, it appears right there. This view screen look is a good one to remember, and then this lock one, right? Also, whenever I see a button, just touch it, open it up, see what it does, right? You can always go back. Never hurts to touch a button. So not only can you see the whole view, then you can select individual students. So the single student. Sorry, my arrows are kind of wonky. Apologize for that. They should be, if we were to be here, this got edited somehow, and here. Okay, So I see my student, and then I see all the actions within that student. I don't know about y'all, but that's going to drive me a little bonkers. So that way I'm not creating any kind of confusion. I apologize for this. Not sure what happened, but that's okay. Just keep on moving. I don't know about y'all. Don't worry too much about mistakes because we all make them. Okay, so there, that looks better to my eyes already. I see my student and I see the actions. Notice some of the actions are the same. So this open icon, the navigate icon, those are the same. Hide, lock, right? This one, view screen, that means if I touch that student's screen, I can see exactly what they're doing, okay? Mute, if a video is playing very loudly, perhaps they are in their an intervention time and using one of their intervention apps. I know when I did intervention time and they're on their apps, I really liked having Apple Classroom open because not only can I see their screens and what they're doing, but when a student, I could hear them get frustrated, I would do a quick select, view their screen, see what they're doing, and then I would say, you know, so-and-so, come here real quick, and then help them walk them through it. Or I would move to them and say, okay, I noticed that you were doing the problem this way and that's not working for you. What's another way we can try it, right? Because even though they're on interventions, we're not just letting them play. We need that interaction with them still. Remove students, really, you're only going to do that if they leave. If they leave the classroom. AirPlay, so I can play something from my iPad. And hide, I've never used hide because I want to see everyone's iPad. But then lock, that is nice because this lock at the top will lock the whole classroom. So this lock right here on the individual student would just lock the one student if that one student was doing something inappropriate or was not following directions repeatedly. I would do a lock iPad, and it's a quick way to, one, the student's eyes always immediately looked right up at me, and then I could motion for them to join me without having to call their name, without having to call them out, right? And then disrupting the more students. Okay, these arrows liked me. Look at that. Okay, so we're in our group, and this time we're looking at launching locking apps. So when I clicked launch, this little layers right here, I see this view. Notice I have multiple students selected at the top, so I'm not just on one. I can select here this toggle to lock them in the app after I open. So I'd want to toggle that first and then select the app I want. If you're an SAISD and you are using ClassLink, some of the applications in ClassLink have to jump out to a different app like iStation. So if you lock them in, that could disrupt that flow. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, it does help to lock them in sometimes to see they can stay focused, they don't jump out. You can also do this to a single student. If a single student kept leaving where they needed to be, you could lock them in. Now we're looking at here, launching locking content. So your navigate button is always, I see books and Safari. Typically, I'm not using books. I really like this to launch a website for them. So that, especially our younger learners, they don't have to type in www, right? You don't have to create a QR code. You can just have it on here, this nice hint, this box right here you see. On your iPad, you've bookmarked your site with your relevant content, and then you can easily go and click and launch to students. Any questions so far? Doing good out there, Juan? Glad you joined me today with my view. Okay, this is one of my favorite ones, view screens. This is where I really look at capturing my students' learning. It gives me formative assessment data. I will tell you, whiteboards in my classroom, like those individual whiteboards, were probably my biggest headache, and Apple Classroom was my answer to that. Um, while I still let them use them because it's good to have the strokes and practicing our strokes. In Reading Academy, we also used how using the finger and the sensors, right? How it triggers the memory from the letter formation. So in our younger learners, using the finger to write on the iPads can help them in learning their letters. And so in Apple Classroom, I'm viewing the screens and I'm saying out loud to my students, right? Maybe if I'm in pre-K, I'm saying, I want you to write the letter that makes the T sound. And then on my Apple Classroom, I'm watching all my students drawing the letter T. Perhaps in my, next step would be I'm going to say sounds and you are going to write the word. So then I'm working on hearing skills, but I'm also working on those encoding skills. So if I say d, a, g, then my students on their screens are writing dog. This view right here, you can see how before we were just seeing the students' pictures. That's changed by clicking these 4 squares. So this area to view the screens has 2 icon looks. One are squares and one are circles. So the square means I'm going to view the screen. The circle means I'm just seeing the icon of the student. So I can see all at once, or I can click on the student view screen to get an up close view of just one at a time. All right, here's where we go into locking and unlocking iPads. So I have my students selected, right? Here I see lock, or up here, sorry, look at that square is not moved to the right spot. Here, and I'll fix these before I share this presentation to you. I would have lock here to lock all, or again, I select one student and I choose lock to lock their iPad. To unlock it, you click the same icon in the same spot and it reverses. Using locking all iPads helped me tremendously when I had my students at the carpet ready to go, but they have their iPads with them. They're supposed to be closed, Apple's up, because if you look at the bottom, the iPad has the Apple icon. Apple's up and waiting for instruction. However, sometimes we are not all successful in waiting to get started. And so locking the whole group's iPads helped me in that because they could open it, but they couldn't do anything. So I still had their attention. Mute and unmute, very helpful, especially if their headphones weren't plugged all the way in. Our intervention apps do play a lot of sound, which is great, right? However, it could get loud. So this helps do a quick mute. And then instead of yelling over, right, or you could have locked, but make sure you have your iPad, your headphones. If you don't have headphones, let me help you find a quiet area of the room so it's not disturbing. Same thing. What I like about the flow in Classroom is I can do the whole view, hear icons, or I can do a single student selecting the student and then selecting the action needed. At the end of the day, when you end class, okay, that's not deleting it, end class, it gives you a summary. So you can see the apps used. So any app opened and launched by your students, you are going to see who launched it and the duration. Okay, this is really nice, especially if you were on an app you were not supposed to be in and maybe you just didn't see it in that moment. It's a great talk to. I have you here on this app, digital citizenship lesson right there, following directions, making sure you're on the right place because we need to keep them safe using technology, right? here it shows me I can tap their name and it opens up just their apps. So the middle view is the whole class view, and this view on the right here is single student and the apps they were in.
Gary, I have a question.
Okay.
I know that you can't say exactly, but what would you estimate is the amount of time that it takes from when you execute an action such as locking of an iPad or muting an iPad, from when you execute that action to when it actually like happens, like in your experience? Is it like something like 1 or 2 seconds? Is it more like 5 to 10 seconds? Is it?
It's like less than a second.
Oh,
Still a second. It's immediate.
Great.
Yeah, it's really nice. Okay, before I share some resources, I'm gonna do a fun, because I knew this presentation was a lot of me sharing information and the steps. I didn't want to just show you how to do it and then you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So it's kind of like we've looked at the view of what it is, and now I'm going to share my iPad screen and walk us through, kind of give you a feel for what it could look like. So I'm going to join in my separate screen, and then I will stop this share so I can do a new share. Okay, an update. I was correct on the GarageBand commercial. There is an iPad app called ChatterPix Kids. Sometimes it has ChatterPix Kids, sometimes it's just ChatterPix. But you can bring anything to life. I can side note us and share that from my iPad too at the very end. If you've never used that app, it's a lot of fun, and you will know when those kids are on it because it opens up to a very distinct sound. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to share my screen from my iPad. If I'm looking down a little, it's just because I'm looking at my iPad. My screen is popping now. Start broadcast. Okay. All right, I'm gonna hide y'all to the side. And then my iPad is Highland Hills today, Juan. My iPad for some reason likes to be in more places than one. That's cool. Okay, so my Apple Classroom icon is right here at the bottom. Okay, if I know I'm going to use it a lot, currently I don't have a classroom, that's mine. But however, if I knew I was going to use it a lot, I just did a quick click hold editing, and I want it over here on the left side of that little area because those would be my constant, and my right side apps, sorry, let me get my pointer. Okay, these apps over here are recent apps. So these constantly change. And then these apps over here in this toolbar will not change. I can create the apps I use most frequently. So like ClassLink would be down there. I highly recommend Notes, and I'll show you why. Apple Classroom, definite. All right. Oh, Highland Hills is your campus. You're like throwback. Okay, so I have Apple Classroom. I'm opening it up. You can see classrooms I've created, and that's fine. I can leave them there. I can go through and I did edit to delete them, to remove them. So like if I wanted to remove this one, delete, done. What's really cool is if I haven't mentioned this yet. It is Bluetooth, so you want to be in the vicinity, right, of your students' iPads. I know I tried it, like walking down the hall. I was going to an art and I was like, oh, I could take my iPad and I could still watch them. But halfway down the hallway, I wasn't in range anymore. Okay, so what I did, because someone comes in and helps you in their classroom, or they did in my campus, I would take my teacher iPad to my coworker, my teammate, and say, they're supposed to be working on this, and she would watch them and help me, and it would not lose connection. So fun little idea there. All right, I want a new classroom, so I'm going to do my plus sign, right? And I'm going to do ready, tech, go. I can add in a description, choose your icon, choose your color. Done. So there's my class ready to go. When I click it to open, I want to start class. Okay, and now I don't have any students, right? So I'm going to do invite students. Just like we saw on the screen, there's my code. So I'm going to go to my student iPad. Sorry, I can't put multiple screens on. That'd be kind of cool, right? But I want to show you on the teacher side. My iPad's going to like me because I believe in it. It hears my positivity coming out. I am on the same Wi-Fi. My Bluetooth is on. So just give me a second. If this doesn't work, it's okay. I'm just going to double check that my Wi-Fi is the same. Yeah. Okay, let me close all these out real fast. So on the student iPad, I'm opening settings, and then I'm just waiting. I might actually do a new invite. And then notice my number changed, right? Because I clicked out of it to open it back up. I'm going to give it one more minute and then decide if it's going to like me or not. If not, then I'm just going to drop it and move on. And it'll all be fine, right? It'll all be fine. I will spotlight some good apps I want y'all to think about using just for basic use of students doing work, and you're seeing kind of like the same way they would use on a whiteboard. And it looks like my iPad and this other iPad do not want to talk. I'm wondering if it's because it's a teacher iPad and not a student iPad. So I'm thinking that's the reason, and that's okay. Okay, so I want to highlight some apps. The first app is Notes. So right here, it's a native iPad app. Okay, and let's see. Wow, I'm gonna do a new note on the side. Okay, so it's coming. There we go. New note, and I'm doing it. Oh wait, I want to go here. I clicked on these arrows to make it large screen. I'm doing notes because if I select this marker, then my students have access to these tools. If you saw me this morning in my poster session, I use similar tools in Pages, and Keynote have these tools as well. So this is where I was talking about, I'm going to let my students, usually I do a 20-second count and I go through my fingers twice, right? Not super fast, but to let them choose their color, because I also think it's fun to choose my color. And so I like for them to be able to have that. I don't want to say use black. That's not who I am. I like color too. Okay, so I've given them 20 seconds to choose their color. They're ready to work with me. I say, like when I said the example, I want you to write the letter that makes the sound. So then I can see my students. Oh, sorry, I have my Apple Pencil connected. So I can see my students writing. Maybe I said it and then one of my students was writing. Let me make that bigger. Okay, they did it like this. It's hard to do things backwards, right? Like this. And so I would be able to say, Hopefully no one here is named Mary. Mary, I'm looking at your screen. Okay, look up at mine. I want to show you something. Okay, try again. Right? So that quick formative assessment, did she know the letter? Yes. Do I want to reinforce the correct way to write it? Absolutely. Right? So that's notes. Okay. Native iPad app. The next native iPad app that I would really encourage you to use, just so you can engage with your students and see what they know in the information, is Pages. I have it in my I am Apple. Okay, so in Pages, I have a book open. I'm going to cancel out of that. And then this plus sign here, right? I do my plus sign. I'm just going to grab a blank page. And then when you teach your kids, if you're going to use Pages, when they open it up, you would say plus sign, new page, right? And then the same thing here. I'm going to get my drawing tools. These are, especially Pages, this is a whole different app in itself, but I want to showcase it for you for using with your students. And so here is where I could say, I'm going to say a word and you're going to write it. So you're working on their encoding skills. So I want to say the word watch, right? And that's a challenging word to get that TCH ending. So I obviously spelled it correctly because, you know, my adult brain just automatically goes to it, but perhaps I spelled watch. Most likely I'm going to see the T missing, right, in my students. And so that way I can say, I'm looking at some screens and I'm noticing there's a T missing on some of my friends' work. Without saying, Juan, you left the T out, because then is he ever going to try again? Maybe, if he believes I'm not going to call him out again, but we don't want to embarrass the kids because, I mean, look, my iPad didn't want to talk right now. We don't want to embarrass them in that way. So I'm saying, hey, look, could I go to him later and say, okay, I noticed on your screen? Absolutely. But that is just a quick, like, hey, check out this app, check out Pages and Notes. So those are my two apps that I would highly, highly recommend using with Apple Classroom to engage your kids in the writing, in the immediate lesson feedback that you could give them. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into our presentation to share. Oh, actually, I'm going to go to it in a second. I'm going to share 3 more apps, and then I'll show you them in the presentation, more resources, and then like our time is going to be up, right? Okay, so another app I really like to use is Sketches School. So all these apps I'm showing are already approved by SAISD and in your app portal. Sketches School, when I open it up, it might show my last drawing. Sorry, I do a lot of like instructional PD, you can see. So usually it'll have like this and you have your journal. So I could even create a whole new journal, and this could be my math. This one could have been my reading, right? So you have like the kids just separate out for fun. So I do my plus sign. This one has a lot of drawing tools, okay? It is very fun. You know how like in the beginning of school you start and you have your practice in sitting? I know I did kinder in 1st grade, and we had to just practice sitting for 5 minutes at a time, right? So like I'm in my station for 5 minutes. I'm not going to leave my area unless it's an emergency. So my teacher can work with her small group or his small group. So this would be a great app to use at a station, because in those 5 minutes, the students can just explore and use all the tools they want. And that way they get it out of their system. So when you need them to use it for instruction, like to write words with you, they're not as distracted as which tool to choose. Usually I would tell them, and I have that G written, so give my iPad a second to keep talking to teams. Usually I tell them, okay, select your tool in 5, 4, like that, 3. And then here, I can select the color and change the color, and I do the same thing. This one has a lot more, so I do tell them, and that one didn't write well. This was one of my favorite ones to write with. This one and this one. I'll come back. I don't let them change color between. I don't let them change the tool between, just to help with the flow of the lesson. So that's Sketches School. Sketches School. It's really fun to use. It also has, I mean, it can have the whole thing. It has that. It has shapes in it, fonts in it. Play with that one. Highly recommended as a center when you're practicing sitting in a station for 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 8 minutes at a time in the beginning of school. Okay, and the next one is Keynote. Keynote is Apple's PowerPoint, basically, right? I can do the same thing. So just for time's sake, I'm just going to add in a blank page onto this slide. And it has the, in my media, the drawing. And then notice the tools are the same, right? Apple is very consistent in their tools. So I'm able to do the same thing. My students are working page by page. Sorry it pops up on y'all's screen. That's just a little delay that it has. But then you can see them in Apple Classroom. Last app is Clips. Also a native app. This app's going to be fun because it's going to show a picture of me. Clips is adding in video. So there you can see me. Great view, Carrie. Clips is adding in video, pictures, posters, fun effects. I used it with my kindergartners and first graders, but then to create stories and puppet shows, and they would record themselves. However, I'm in Apple Classroom. I can see everything they're doing. So that's just a view of what Clips looks like. So let's go back to our presentation. I'm going to stop sharing from my iPad because we are almost done. Okay. It's always fun to pop from that iPad now to my presentation. So here were those apps, right? So you're going to have access to this. You see those 4 apps. I also added in Notes because I think Notes is very simple and easy to use. So you'll be able to see what each of them can do. And then resources from Apple. So education.apple.com is where I can access all these resources. Becoming an Apple teacher is going to allow you to learn all the different main interfaces from Apple. They have an iPad version to follow and a MacBook one to follow lessons. There's an essential app guide, and this will all be in the presentation I share. And then Apple has ebooks called Everyone Can Create. And in those ebooks, they have ideas and lessons to use some of the Apple native apps with. And then this last one, I'm not sure for outside districts, but hey, give it a try, right? But I know in SAISD, you can schedule a coaching session with someone from Apple Professional Learning. You can also contact your EdTech instructional specialist to help you. I am an Apple teacher and an Apple learning coach, and you can always contact me and I will gladly help you with any of these resources, setting up learning, using the iPad with you and your students. All the EdTech instructional specialists could be in your classroom in real time while you're doing this as well. Okay, so I'm going to grab that bit.ly. I know we're a little 10 minutes, perfect timing. So I'm going to grab the presentation for you. I'm going to grab the bit.ly for you to sign in. I know it was a lot of information. I apologize. I was like, I don't know if there's a better way to be able to share all of this with y'all without just giving you all the information, right? So let me grab that. But I hope that you got some ideas for me. I really hope you use Apple Classroom in your classroom next year. And definitely reach out to us, right? So I'm going to put my email, Seashell1. We want to be there with you in your classroom to support you 100%. So I'm going to change this. Anyone with the link, a viewer. And so here you go. There is my presentation as well. I will stay on to answer any questions you may have. Check out Chatterpix Kids. It won't let me share what all it's doing because Teams is taking the audio and the camera on my iPad, but it's a really, really fun app. Like a lot of the apps on the iPads, right? But thank y'all so much for coming. Hopefully you have a great experience using Apple Classroom next year, and reach out at any time. I'll stay on for a little longer, but y'all can jump off as you are ready. Thanks, Juan, for being my eyes.
Glad to.
And
All right, see you in a bit.
Bye. I'm watching, Miss Page. I'm watching the dots of you typing. Reach out because we can help you.
Thank you. It was good. I'm trying to become more techie. So
You and your coworker, because I saw a couple of your coworkers in the sessions yesterday. If we set you up with Apple Classroom, they would be like, "What? How are you doing that?"
yeah, I'd like to get something like this started. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep your email address handy.
You have. I've written your name down. Don't worry. Anyone else that wants me to write their name down as well, please let me know and I will contact you.
Yes, I wrote it down in my book with all my wonderful notes that I've been taking this week.
Yay. And you can talk to Esquivel. You know,
Oh,
Mrs.
really?
Esquivel?
Yes, I do.
Yours, I was her child's teacher.
Really?
Yes, you can be like, hey, I'm
Oh,
Michelle.
cool. Seashell.
Seashell.
All right, Seashell1. Gotcha.
Thank you, Miss Page.
Thank you so much.